Tony Accardo, the boss who never did time. Mob Truth, Episode 13. Tony Accardo, the name you barely hear but the one that ruled with silence. He never made the front page, but he ran the show behind it. This is Mob Truth, formerly Criminal Code, and today, we uncover the quiet reign of the man they called Joe Batters. Tony Accardo wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but he was deadly effective. Born in 1906 in Chicago to Italian immigrants, Anthony Joseph Accardo would grow up to become the man behind the man, eventually controlling the Chicago outfit without ever stepping inside a prison cell. While other mobsters chased headlines, Tony stayed in the shadows, and that's exactly how he liked it. His nickname came early, Joe Batters. Why? Because Al Capone saw him beat two men to death with a baseball bat. That kind of loyalty and brutality made Accardo climb fast. He started as a low-level enforcer but earned Capone's trust. By his 30s, he was already one of the outfit's top hitmen. But he had a plan: work smarter, not louder. After Capone's downfall, Paul Ricca became the new boss, and Tony Accardo his right-hand man. When Ricca went to prison, Accardo smoothly took over. He wasn't a street thug anymore. He was a businessman. He expanded the outfit into new territories: gambling, slot machines, and unions. If money moved, Tony got a cut. Unlike the violent headlines made by New York's five families, Accardo kept things low-key. No wild hits, no media shows. He introduced one simple rule: no killing unless absolutely necessary. It wasn't about mercy, it was about survival. He understood something most mobsters never did. Attention brings heat. In the 50s and 60s, the outfit made hundreds of millions. Accardo had his hand in Vegas casinos, Hollywood extortion, and the Teamsters Union. He lived in a mansion in River Forest, drove Cadillacs, and vacationed in Palm Springs. But behind that calm face was a man who'd order a hit without blinking. If you crossed him, you vanished. Tony Accardo's genius was simple. He outlasted them all. He never got indicted, never served prison time, and never gave interviews. Even when law enforcement closed in, they could never pin anything on him. He officially retired in the 70s but kept pulling strings from behind the scenes until his death in 1992. Silent, rich, untouchable. By the 1970s, Tony Accardo had built an empire so stable, even the FBI couldn't crack it. While other crime bosses were wiretapped, indicted, or murdered, Accardo operated with quiet precision. He didn't talk on phones, he didn't attend big meetings, and when he walked into a room, no one dared to challenge him. Accardo trained the next generation of mob leaders, including Joey Aiuppa and Sam Giancana. But unlike his successors, Tony believed in balance. He hated greed and recklessness. When Giancana got too flashy, Accardo had him removed. He didn't want headlines, he wanted profits. Quiet money, clean hands, that was his code. Waveform 1978, Tony made headlines, but not for what you'd expect. His house was burglarized, big mistake. Days later, the suspected thieves started turning up dead, shot, strangled, or dumped in alleys. The message was clear: you don't rob Tony Accardo and live to tell about it. He never got caught, no arrests, just silence and bodies. Law enforcement knew Accardo was the true boss behind Chicago's outfit, but proving it? Impossible. He didn't sign orders. He didn't show up to crime scenes. He moved like a ghost. Even when questioned before the Senate, his answers were cold, polite, and empty. He played the game better than anyone else. Tony's strength wasn't just violence, it was discipline. He punished mobsters who used drugs or brought attention to themselves. He didn't drink excessively, didn't gamble openly, and dressed modestly. He lived like a retired businessman, not a mob kingpin. And that's why he survived every storm that hit organized crime. In his final years, Accardo stayed sharp. He still attended private meetings, gave quiet orders, and settled disputes. But he knew when to step back. He passed the torch while staying in the background, always watching. When he died in 1992 at 86 years old, he left behind one of the longest and cleanest criminal reigns in Mafia history, Accardo had one rule that made him different from most bosses: no drugs. He believed narcotics brought heat, long sentences, and unpredictable behavior. While other crews cashed in, Tony banned it outright. Anyone caught pushing heroin or cocaine under his watch risked a quiet, permanent exit. He kept tight control over Las Vegas without ever setting foot in the spotlight. Through trusted men like Murray Humphreys and Alan Dorfman, Accardo ensured Chicago's slice of the casino pie stayed flowing. He didn't gamble for fun, but he made millions off those who did. Educing short Accardo connections for Uppert. Law enforcement tried everything: wiretaps, undercover agents, financial audits, but Accardo was too careful. He used buffers, stayed off phones, and never signed documents. Detectives joked that trying to catch Tony was like chasing smoke in the wind. He existed in the shadows, and that's how he survived. Most intelligence along with other men, despite his quiet style, Accardo had a cold edge. One story tells of a mobster who tried to skim from a casino. Within days, that man disappeared, and his body was never found. Tony didn't yell, he didn't threaten, but if you betrayed him, you wouldn't get a second chance. And this reason ate the family teams. An Accardo shop in Ramo views like Tees of Harrow and Daybrings for racks. In the pyre to proceed, when one in team is that straced. From gambling rackets to labor unions, everything flowed through his web. But he never bragged. While other bosses took photos in fur coats and nightclubs, Tony stayed in tailored suits and safe neighborhoods. By the end of his life, FBI files on Accardo stacked high, but they had nothing solid. No conviction, no smoking gun. Just rumors, whispers, and fear. That was Tony's genius, total control without chaos. He didn't need a throne, he ran the kingdom from behind the curtain. Even rival families respected Tony Accardo. In meetings with New York bosses, his word carried weight, even without raising his voice. They knew Chicago wasn't just muscle, it was money, and Tony was the reason. He didn't just lead men, he led cities. Accardo didn't waste time on petty revenge. He was surgical. If someone wronged the outfit, Tony waited. He gathered facts. Then, quietly and efficiently, he made them vanish. Whether it took days or years, justice always came, silent, clean, and final. He never trusted big crowds or flashy celebrations. Even at weddings or family events, Tony kept a low profile. No speeches, no posing, just a quiet seat in the corner, always watching. His paranoia wasn't weakness, it was strategy, and it kept him alive. His personal life was a mirror of his mob style, married, faithful, and private. He didn't have mistresses like Giancana or outbursts like Gotti. He stayed home, raised a family, and let others cause chaos while he built power in silence. Easing wiretaps became the FBI's weapon of choice. Accardo's methods looked genius in hindsight. No incriminating calls, no big sit-downs, just whispers, hand signals, and middlemen. By the time the feds heard something, Tony was 3 moves ahead, like a chess grandmaster with no fingerprints on the board. Invalidated, Serva. Even mob historians admit there's a reason Tony Accardo's name doesn't get shouted like Capone or Gotti. It's not because he wasn't powerful, it's because he was smarter. He made a billion-dollar empire feel invisible. And when people don't see you, they can't stop you. One of Accardo's most famous lines was simple: "The greatest mistake is getting too greedy." That philosophy guided his entire reign. He didn't squeeze businesses until they broke. He let them breathe, grow, and pay. A silent tax collector in a pinstripe suit. He avoided politics publicly, but pulled strings privately. Chicago elections, construction contracts, police promotions. Accardo knew where the real power lived, and with a word, a handshake, or a quiet envelope, he moved the pieces without ever stepping into the spotlight. Even retired, Tony wasn't out. He still received visitors. Young outfit guys, old allies, even rivals came to his home for advice. He wasn't giving orders like before, but if he frowned at your plan, you changed it. His silence still shaped the mob's future. His only close call came in 1960 when he was indicted for tax evasion. But the case fell apart. Why? Because even his finances were layered. Front businesses, clean books, trusted lawyers. It was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. Tony Accardo was so respected that even federal agents called him the model boss. Not because they liked him, because they couldn't catch him. He turned the Chicago outfit into a quiet corporate giant, while other crews crumbled under greed and chaos. He never testified, never turned, never wrote a book. In a world where gangsters became celebrities, Tony Accardo stayed a ghost. No memoirs, no podcasts, just stories whispered in the corners of restaurants and courtrooms. That's how legends are made. Accardo rarely lost his temper, but when he did, it was terrifying. One witness said Tony could go from calm to deadly with just a stare. He didn't shout, he didn't need to. One cold look was enough to freeze a room and send a clear message: you're one mistake away from disappearing. When law enforcement cracked down on the New York families during the commission trials, Chicago stayed quiet. Accardo had seen it coming. He'd told his guys, lay low, no parades, no press. While the 5 families crumbled, the outfit kept stacking cash. It also had CIA invested in legal real estate, buying homes, parking garages, and office buildings under relatives' names. He knew dirty money needed clean places to hide. By the 80s, some of the most legit-looking businesses in Chicago had outfit money buried in their walls. To some, mobsters had to be feared, others had to be loved. Accardo managed both. To his neighbors, he was a polite, quiet old man who kept his lawn trimmed. To the mob, he was a godfather in every sense of the word, calm, calculating, and absolutely untouchable. It said Tony never raised his voice in public, not once, but he didn't need to. His power wasn't in volume, it was in presence. When he entered a restaurant, the room shifted. Conversations paused, respect followed him like a shadow. Decades later, FBI agents admit, Tony Accardo was the most successful mob boss America ever produced. Not because of bloodshed, not because of fame, but because of discipline. He played the game for over 60 years, and he never lost. Tony had one major weakness. He hated betrayal, not just from enemies, but from within. If someone in the outfit broke the rules, even by accident, he'd handle it personally. There were no second chances with Accardo. Loyalty wasn't rewarded, it was expected, like breathing. During the height of his influence, Accardo wasn't just feared by criminals, he was respected by businessmen. CEOs, bankers, and even judges quietly acknowledged his reach. He didn't act like a gangster, he acted like a chairman, and that's exactly what he was. In the 1980s, when surveillance tech exploded, Accardo never slipped. While others got caught with bugs in cars, bars, and payphones, Tony kept it old school. No phone calls, no direct meetings, just handwritten notes passed through trusted messengers. It was outdated, but it worked. Even his personal habits were calculated. He ate at the same restaurants, sat in the same booths, tipped the same waiters. It created routine, predictability, and that made it easier to spot if anything was off. Tony wasn't paranoid, he was prepared. Accardo didn't believe in revenge as emotion, only as balance. If you stole from the outfit, he didn't get angry. He got even. You'd be replaced, erased, or warned, depending on your value. He didn't need to feel rage. He just needed to restore order. To this day, mob insiders say, if there were ever a blueprint for the perfect boss, it was Tony Accardo. He didn't just survive, he mastered the system. While others became cautionary tales, Tony became a myth. A man who lived by silence and ruled forever. If you want more real stories, no Hollywood, no lies, just mob truth, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This isn't criminal code anymore. This is mob truth, and we're just getting started.